The mud hit like a judgment, cold, filthy, total. Lena Brooks stood frozen on the empty street at 5:47 a.m., drenched head to toe, while laughter poured from the white SUV that had just destroyed her. "Learn where you belong," the voice shrieked before the engine roared away. 23 years old, 2 jobs, one fragile dream, and now she looked like trash before her shift even started. But across the street, hidden behind tinted glass, someone else had seen everything. Graham Cross didn't do public scenes, he didn't do charity stunts. He'd built empires by staying invisible. But cruelty? That he never ignored. And this girl covered in mud? She was about to become the exception to every rule he'd ever made. Before we begin, I invite you to stay with this story until the very end. If it moves you, please like and comment with the city you're watching from. I'd love to see how far this journey reaches. The rain had stopped an hour before dawn, but the street still glistened with that slick, oily sheen that made every shadow look deeper than it was. Lena Brooks walked fast, shoulders tight, breath fogging in the October cold. Her sneakers were already wet from cutting through the park, the shortcut that saved her 7 minutes and $30 a month in bus fare she couldn't afford to waste. She checked her phone. 5:46 a.m. Perfect. She'd be at Crownview Towers Hotel by 6:15, changed and clocked in by 6:30, floors mopped before the breakfast crowd descended at 7. Routine, predictable. Safe. Lena didn't ask for much. Just enough hours to cover rent, groceries, and Mia's school supplies. Her little sister was 14 now, whip-smart and stubborn. The kind of kid who deserved better than a cramped studio apartment that smelled like the Chinese restaurant downstairs. Lena worked mornings at the hotel, afternoons at a dry cleaner's, and some nights she did data entry from home until her eyes burned. She didn't complain. Complaining took energy she didn't have. The street ahead was empty, just her, the dim glow of a few scattered streetlights, and the faint hum of the city waking up somewhere far away. She liked this part of the day. Nobody stared. Nobody judged. She was just a shape moving through the dark. Then she heard it. The low, aggressive growl of an engine accelerating hard. Lena turned her head just as the white luxury SUV came roaring around the corner, music thumping so loud the bass rattled the pavement. It wasn't slowing down. It wasn't even pretending to care about the massive puddle pooled along the curb from last night's downpour. She had maybe 2 seconds to process what was about to happen. Not enough time to move. The SUV hit the puddle at full speed. The wave of dirty water exploded upward like a geyser, freezing, filthy, complete. It slammed into Lena with the force of a punch, drenching her from head to toe. Mud splattered across her face, her jacket, her jeans, her bag. Cheap canvas, already fraying, took the brunt of it, soaking through to the notebooks and the spare uniform inside. She stood there, gasping, arms half raised in some useless instinct to shield herself after the damage was already done. The SUV screeched to a stop 20 feet ahead. For one wild, stupid second, Lena thought maybe the driver was going to apologize. Maybe roll down the window, look horrified, offer to pay for her dry cleaning. Instead, the window slid down. And laughter poured out. High, sharp, delighted laughter. A young woman leaned out, blonde hair blown out in perfect waves, lips painted the color of fresh blood. Oversized sunglasses perched on her head, even though the sun hadn't risen yet. She looked like she'd just stepped out of a magazine ad for something Lena couldn't afford to pronounce. "Oh my God," the woman said, her voice dripping with mock concern. "Did I get you?" Lena's throat locked. The woman's smile widened. "You should really watch where you stand, honey. Streets are dangerous." She paused, eyes dragging over Lena's soaked, filthy clothes with open contempt. Then she added, voice cutting and cruel, "Learn where you belong." The window rolled up, the engine roared, the SUV peeled away, tires squealing, leaving nothing behind but exhaust fumes and the echo of that laughter. Lena stood there, trembling. Not from the cold. Not yet. From rage, from humiliation so thick it felt like drowning. Her hands curled into fists at her sides, nails biting into her palms. She wanted to scream. She wanted to run after that car and smash every window. She wanted to cry. She did none of those things. Because across the street, barely visible in the pre-dawn gloom, a black sedan sat perfectly still. The engine was off. The headlights were dark, but someone was inside. watching. Becut. Graham Cross had been awake for 43 hours. That wasn't unusual. Sleep was a negotiation he rarely won. He preferred the quiet hours, the ones where the world hadn't started demanding things from him yet. Tonight, or this morning, technically, he'd been driving aimlessly through the city, windows down despite the cold, trying to remember what it felt like to be part of something instead of just adjacent to it. He'd made his first billion by 29, his second by 31. By 35, he'd built an empire so vast and so quiet that most people didn't even know his name. He owned hotels, office complexes, logistics networks, tech portfolios. He funded scholarships, disaster relief, medical research. All of it anonymous. All of it invisible. Because visibility meant vulnerability. And Graham had learned early that vulnerability got you destroyed. He'd been about to head home when he saw the SUV barreling down the street. He saw the girl walking alone. He saw what was about to happen. And then he watched it happen anyway, because he was too far away to stop it. The SUV hit the puddle. The water exploded. The girl, young, small, soaked through, stood there like she'd been struck by lightning. Graham's hands tightened on the steering wheel. Then the window rolled down. And that voice, that smug, vicious, entitled voice, cut through the morning like a blade. Learn where you belong. Something cold and sharp turned over in Graham's chest. He knew that voice. Vera Langston, influencer, heiress, professional waste of oxygen. Her father owned a chain of luxury car dealerships and had been trying to get Graham to partner on some vanity real estate project for the past year. Graham had declined, politely, repeatedly. Now he was regretting the politely part. The SUV sped away. The girl remained. Graham watched her stand there, dripping, shaking, fists clenched so tight her knuckles went white. He waited for her to break, to scream, to collapse. She didn't. She pulled her bag higher on her shoulder, wiped the mud from her face with the back of her hand, and kept walking. Toward Crown View Towers, one of his hotels. Graham sat there for a long moment, engine off, thoughts turning over like gears clicking into place. Then he pulled out his phone and made a call. Marcus, I need a full background check, quiet, fast. On who? A girl who just got hit by a puddle. There was a pause. You're serious? When am I not? Fair point. Name? I don't have one yet, but she's headed to Crown View Towers, early shift, find her. Got it. Graham ended the call and started the engine. He didn't follow her, not yet, but he didn't leave either. Lena made it to the employee entrance of Crown View Towers at 6:11 a.m., 4 minutes ahead of schedule, and looking like she'd been dragged through a swamp. The security guard, Deshawn, took one look at her and winced. Jesus, Lena, what happened? Puddle, she said flatly. That's one hell of a puddle. Yeah. She didn't elaborate. She didn't have the energy. Deshawn buzzed her through without another word, and Lena headed straight for the staff locker room. It was empty. Most of the morning crew didn't start until 6:30, and she was grateful for that. She didn't want witnesses. She peeled off her jacket, her shirt, her jeans. Everything was soaked. Everything smelled like street water and gasoline. She wrung out what she could, then dug into her bag for the backup uniform she always kept. The shirt was damp but wearable. The pants had a mud streak down one leg, but if she tucked them into her boots, maybe nobody would notice. She caught sight of herself in the mirror. Mud still streaked across her cheek. Her hair, dark, curly, usually pulled back in a tight bun, was plastered to her skull. Her eyes looked too big, too bright, like she was holding back something dangerous. She looked exactly like what that woman in the SUV had seen. Trash. Lena turned away from the mirror and finished getting dressed. By 6:34 a.m., she was on the 5th floor with a mop bucket and a list of rooms that needed early cleaning before the guests woke up. Her supervisor, Carol, had barely glanced at her when she clocked in, just muttered something about being on time for once, and shoved the assignment sheet into her hands. Lena worked fast. Muscle memory took over. Mop, ring, repeat. Don't think. Don't feel. Just move. But her coworkers noticed. "Girl, you look rough," said Shanice, one of the housekeepers, as she passed Lena in the hallway. "I'm fine." "You sure? You smell like—" "I said I'm fine." Shanice raised her hands. All right, damn." Lena kept moving. At 7:02 a.m., she was wiping down a mirror in one of the executive suites when her supervisor appeared in the doorway. "Brooks, my office, now." Lena's stomach dropped. Carol's office was a glorified storage closet on the second floor, crammed with cleaning supplies and a desk barely big enough for a laptop. Carol sat behind it, arms crossed, expression unreadable. "You want to explain why you showed up looking like you got hit by a truck?" Lena's jaw tightened. "I had an accident on the way here." "An accident, yes. You couldn't have cleaned yourself up before clocking in?" "I did clean myself up." Carol's eyes narrowed. "This is a five-star hotel, Brooks. Our guests expect a certain standard. That includes the staff they see. I work on floors that are empty during my shift. Nobody sees me. That's not the point." "Then what is the point?" Carol leaned forward. "The point is that you're one step away from a formal write-up, and you're acting like you don't care." Lena's hands curled into fists in her lap. "I care." "Then prove it. Show up on time. Show up clean. Show up like you actually want to be here." "I do want to be here." "Then act like it." The silence stretched. Finally, Carol waved a hand. "Get back to work." Lena stood, turned, and walked out without another word. Her hands were shaking again. What? 3 floors up, in an office most employees didn't even know existed, Graham Cross sat behind a glass desk and read the file Marcus had just sent him. Lena Marie Brooks, age 23, employed at Crownview Towers, housekeeping, morning shift, and Prestige Dry Cleaners, afternoon shift. Occasional freelance data entry. Lives at 428 Halstead Avenue, Unit 3B. Guardian to younger sister, Mia Brooks, age 14. Parents deceased. Car accident, 2018. No outstanding debts. No criminal record. No social media presence. Last known relationship? None. Savings account balance? $247. Graham read it twice. Then he set the file down and stared out the window at the city waking up below. 247. She was keeping herself and a teenager afloat on $247 in savings and 2 brutal jobs that barely covered rent. And this morning, some bored heiress had decided it would be funny to humiliate her just because she could. Graham picked up his phone again. "Marcus." "Yeah?" "I want flowers sent to Lena Brooks. Locker 14, staff break room, Crownview Towers." "No card? Just flowers." "Flowers." "Yes." "You know that's going to look weird, right? I don't care. What kind of flowers?" Graham paused. "Something that doesn't die in 2 days. Helpful. You're the one who went to business school. Figure it out." He hung up. Then he made another call. "HR, this is Cross. I want a review of all part-time and contract staff at Crownview Towers, specifically anyone working multiple jobs. I want to know who's struggling and why." "That's going to take some time, Mr. Cross. You have 48 hours. "Understood." He ended the call and leaned back in his chair. He wasn't saving her, not yet, but he was watching. And if someone tried to hurt her again, they'd learn very quickly what happened when Graham Cross stopped being invisible. Lena finished her shift at 1:47 p.m., exhausted and still smelling faintly of street water despite scrubbing her hands raw in the staff bathroom. She clocked out, grabbed her bag from her locker, and froze. Sitting on the bench inside her locker was a small bouquet of flowers. White lilies, fresh, perfect. No card. Lena stared at them for a long moment, heart pounding. Then she closed the locker door and walked away. She didn't take the flowers. She didn't trust them. But for the first time all day, something inside her chest loosened just a little. Someone had seen her, and they hadn't looked away. The flowers stayed in her locker for 3 days before someone from the evening shift took them home. Lena never asked who. She told herself it didn't matter, that they'd been a mistake, meant for someone else, left in the wrong locker by accident. But every time she opened that metal door and saw the empty space where they'd been, something small and stubborn twisted in her chest. She didn't have time for mysteries. She had bills. The dry cleaners was a 40-minute bus ride from Crown View Towers, and Lena made it with 6 minutes to spare. She clocked in at 2:31 p.m., tied on her apron, and spent the next 5 hours steaming wrinkles out of suits that cost more than her monthly rent. Her boss, Mr. Chen, was a quiet man who paid on time and didn't ask questions, which made him one of the better employers she'd ever had. He nodded when she arrived, handed her the day's batch, and disappeared into the back office to do whatever it was he did back there. Lena worked in silence, the hiss of the steamer and the low hum of the radio the only sounds. Her mind drifted. It always did during the repetitive tasks. She thought about Mia's report card, straight A's again, thank God, and the dentist appointment she needed to schedule but kept putting off because the copay was $60 she didn't have. She thought about the hole forming in her left sneaker and whether she could patch it with duct tape for another month. She did not think about the woman in the white SUV, except she did. Every time she closed her eyes, she heard that voice. Learn where you belong. Like Lena didn't already know. Like she hadn't spent every single day of the past 5 years learning exactly where the world thought she belonged. Invisible, replaceable, grateful for scraps. The anger was still there, banked low in her ribs like coals that wouldn't go out. At 7:34 p.m., she clocked out, caught the bus home, and let herself into the apartment just as Mia was finishing her homework at the kitchen table. "You're late," Mia said without looking up. "Traffic." "You took the bus." "Bus traffic." Mia snorted. She had their mother's eyes, dark, sharp, quick to catch lies. Lena had their father's stubbornness, which meant this was going to be a standoff neither of them would win. "You eat?" Lena asked, dropping her bag by the door and kicking off her shoes. "Leftover rice." "That's not dinner." "It's food." "Mia." "I'm fine, Lena. Stop hovering." Lena bit back the response she wanted to give and opened the fridge instead. Half a carton of eggs, a wilted bag of spinach, some suspicious-looking cheese. She pulled out the eggs and started cracking them into a bowl. "Omelet?" Mia asked, sounding more hopeful than she probably meant to. "Yeah." "With cheese?" "If it hasn't evolved sentience yet." Mia grinned and Lena felt some of the tension in her shoulders ease. This was what mattered. Not flowers, not strangers, just this. Keeping Mia fed, keeping her safe, keeping her in school so she could have the kind of future Lena had given up the right to imagine for herself. They ate together at the tiny table, Mia talking about some drama in her English class, and for 20 minutes Lena let herself believe everything was fine. Then her phone buzzed, a text from an unknown number. "Report to Mr. Donovan's office tomorrow at 6:45 a.m. Do not be late." Lena stared at the screen. Mr. Donovan was the operations manager at Crown View Towers. She'd seen him exactly twice in the 8 months she'd worked there, once during orientation and once when he'd walked past her in the hallway without acknowledging her existence. This couldn't be good. "What's wrong?" Mia asked, watching her. "Nothing." "You're lying." "I'm not." "Your face does this thing when you lie. Your left eye twitches." Lena rubbed her eye. "I don't have a twitch." "You absolutely do." Lena set the phone down and forced a smile. "It's just work stuff. I'll handle it." Mia didn't look convinced, but she didn't push. She just went back to her homework, and Lena went back to pretending everything was under control. She didn't sleep that night. At 6:43 a.m., Lena stood outside Mr. Donovan's office, heart hammering, palms sweating despite the chill in the air. She'd arrived early, too early. But she wasn't about to give anyone another reason to write her up. She smoothed down her uniform, checked her reflection in the glass door, and knocked. "Come in." She stepped inside. Mr. Donovan sat behind a large desk cluttered with papers, his expression unreadable. He was a broad man in his 50s with a face that looked like it had forgotten how to smile sometime in the 90s. He gestured to the chair across from him without preamble. "Sit." Lena sat. He didn't look at her. He shuffled through a stack of files, pulled one out, and flipped it open. "Lena Brooks. Housekeeping. Morning shift." "Yes, sir." "You've been here 8 months." "Yes, sir." "No write-ups, no complaints, consistent attendance." Lena's pulse quickened. That sounded good. That sounded like maybe this wasn't about the mud incident after all. "We're moving you," Donovan said. Lena blinked. "I'm sorry?" Executive floors VIP maintenance starting Monday. Her brain stuttered. What? You'll be working floors 12 through 15, VIP suites, conference rooms, private lounges, higher guest expectations, higher standards, also higher pay. Lena's mouth opened, closed, opened again. I don't understand. What's not to understand? You're getting promoted. But I didn't apply for... You don't apply for transfers. Management decides. He closed the file and finally looked at her. You have a problem with better pay? No, sir. Why me? Donovan's expression flickered, something almost like discomfort. Someone upstairs thinks you've got potential. Don't make them regret it. He slid a new assignment sheet across the desk. Report to Sandra Ewan on the 12th floor Monday morning. She'll train you. Any questions? Lena's mind was spinning too fast to form coherent thoughts. No, sir. Good. Dismissed. She stood, legs unsteady, and walked out of the office in a daze. A promotion, better pay. She hadn't even known there were openings. Lena made it halfway down the hall before the first whisper reached her. Did you hear? Brooks got moved to VIP. Are you kidding? She's been here less than a year. I've been here 3 years and I'm still scrubbing toilets on the 3rd floor. Who'd she sleep with? Lena's hands curled into fists, but she kept walking. By lunchtime, the entire housekeeping staff knew. And by the end of her shift, she'd learned that workplace jealousy was a living, breathing thing with teeth. Roxy Callahan had been working at Crownview Towers for 6 years. She was 42, efficient, and perpetually bitter about the fact that she'd never been promoted past senior housekeeper despite her seniority. She had a sharp face, sharper elbows, and a talent for making new hires feel small without ever saying anything actionable. When Lena walked into the break room at 12:15 p.m., Roxy was holding court at the corner table, surrounded by 3 other housekeepers who looked up when Lena entered. The room went quiet. Lena grabbed her lunch from her locker, a peanut butter sandwich she'd made at 5:30 a.m., and sat down at the opposite end of the room. Well, well, Roxy said, voice dripping with false cheer. If it isn't our rising star. Lena didn't respond. Must be nice, Roxy continued, getting handed a promotion you didn't earn. Lena took a bite of her sandwich and stared at the wall. I'm just saying, Roxy went on, louder now. Some of us have been busting our asses for years, but I guess hard work doesn't matter if you've got the right connections. One of the other women, Lena didn't know her name, snickered. Lena set down her sandwich. I don't have connections. Sure you don't. I don't. Roxy leaned back in her chair, arms crossed. Then how'd you get picked, huh? You think Donovan just pulled your name out of a hat? I don't know how I got picked, but I didn't ask for it. Right, and I'm the Queen of England. Lena stood, wrapping her sandwich back up. Believe what you want. Oh, I will, Roxy called after her as she headed for the door. And when you screw up, and you will, don't come crying to me. Lena left the break room and spent the rest of her lunch shift sitting in a bathroom stall, trying to remember how to breathe. Monday came too fast. Lena reported to the 12th floor at 6:28 a.m., 2 minutes early, and found Sandra Ewan waiting for her by the service elevator. Sandra was a small, no-nonsense woman in her 50s with silver-streaked hair pulled into a tight bun and the kind of posture that suggested military background. Brooks? Yes, ma'am. Call me Sandra. Ma'am makes me feel old. She handed Lena a tablet. This is your assignment sheet, updated daily. You'll cover suites 1201 through 1210, the executive lounge, and the private conference rooms. Guests on these floors pay premium rates, which means they expect premium service. You with me? Yes. Good. Let's go. Sandra moved fast, talking as she walked, pointing out supply closets, emergency exits, guest preferences logged in the system. Lena absorbed it all, taking notes on the tablet, asking questions when she didn't understand. These guests don't want to see you, Sandra said as they passed a suite with a Do Not Disturb sign. They want the room clean, the minibar stocked, and zero interaction. You're invisible. Got it? Got it. But if they do see you, you're polite, professional, and fast. No lingering, no small talk, in and out. Understood. Sandra stopped outside suite 1207 and pulled out a key card. This one's empty. Guests checked out an hour ago. Let's see what you can do. Lena stepped inside. The suite was massive, larger than her entire apartment. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked the city, the morning light pouring in like liquid gold. A king-size bed with Egyptian cotton sheets, a marble bathroom with a soaking tub, a minibar stocked with drinks that probably cost more than her weekly groceries. She got to work. Sandra watched in silence as Lena stripped the bed, wiped down surfaces, restocked towels, vacuumed, checked the minibar inventory. She moved methodically, efficiently, the way she'd been taught. No wasted motion, no missed details. When she finished, Sandra walked through the room, running a finger along the windowsill, checking the bathroom mirror, opening the minibar. Then she nodded. Not bad. You'll do. Lena exhaled. One more thing, Sandra added. The guests up here? Some of them are famous, politicians, actors, CEOs. You see something, you forget it. You hear something, you forget it. Discretion isn't optional. It's survival. I understand. Good. Get started on 12:08. Lena worked through the morning in a kind of focused trance, room after room, each one emptier and more excessive than the last. By noon, her back ached and her hands smelled like industrial cleaner, but she'd finished her assignments ahead of schedule. She was restocking her cart in the service hallway when she heard the voices. Two men, one older, one younger, both speaking in the clipped, confident tones of people who'd never had to worry about being overheard. Wu as ao amampiam. Gao suta woman bu jieshou di yu 600万的报价. Lena froze. She spoke Cantonese. Her mother had made sure of that. And these men were discussing a real estate deal worth millions, completely unaware that the woman pushing the cleaning cart 10 feet away understood every word. She kept moving, head down, invisible, just like Sandra had said. But her mind was racing. She finished restocking and pushed her cart toward the elevator, passing the two men without making eye contact. As the elevator doors closed, one of them glanced her way. She saw the exact moment he dismissed her as irrelevant, and she felt that old, familiar anger stir again. By the end of her first week on the VIP floors, Lena had seen things that would have made headlines. A senator with a woman who wasn't his wife. A tech CEO screaming at someone on the phone about a failed merger. A movie star leaving a suite that smelled like marijuana and desperation. She saw it all. She said nothing. And the paychecks started coming in bigger. Not much bigger, but enough that she could finally schedule Mia's dentist appointment and replace her dying sneakers and put $50 into savings instead of $20. It felt like breathing for the first time in months. But Roxy was still watching, and Roxy was still angry. It started small. A rumor here. A pointed comment there. Nothing Lena could prove, but enough to make her feel the weight of eyes on her back every time she walked into the break room. Then it escalated. Lena arrived at work one morning to find her cart missing. She reported it to Sandra, who found it 20 minutes later shoved into a storage closet on the wrong floor. The next day, her locker was jammed shut. The day after that, someone spilled an entire bottle of floor cleaner in the service hallway right before her shift, and she spent an hour cleaning it up while falling behind on her schedule. She didn't complain. She didn't report it. She just worked harder. But the breaking point came on a Friday. Lena was restocking the minibar in suite 1215 when she noticed the bottle of vodka looked off. The seal was broken. The liquid inside was too clear, too thin. Someone had replaced it with water. Her stomach dropped. If a guest opened that bottle and complained, it would come back on her. She'd be blamed. She'd be written up. Maybe worse. She grabbed the bottle, logged it as damaged in the system, and replaced it with a fresh one from her cart. Crisis averted. Except when she checked her cart, she found 3 more bottles, scotch, gin, bourbon, all tampered with. Someone had sabotaged her. And she had a pretty good idea who. That night, Lena lay awake in the dark, staring at the ceiling, listening to Mia's soft breathing from the other side of the room. She thought about quitting. She thought about confronting Roxy. She thought about the flowers in her locker that first week, the ones she'd never taken, the ones that had felt like a test she wasn't ready to pass. And she thought about the woman in the white SUV laughing as she drove away. Learn where you belong. Lena closed her eyes. She wasn't going anywhere. 3 floors above her, in an office that overlooked the entire city, Graham Cross sat in the dark and reviewed the security footage from the 12th floor service hallway. He watched Roxy Callahan tamper with the minibar inventory. He watched her smile as she did it. He watched Lena discover the sabotage and fix it without saying a word. Graham's jaw tightened. He picked up his phone. "Marcus, I need you to pull personnel files on Roxy Callahan. Everything. Employment history, performance reviews, complaints filed against her." "What are we looking for?" "A pattern." "You got it." Graham ended the call and leaned back in his chair. He'd been watching Lena for 2 weeks now. Not obsessively, not constantly. Just enough to see the shape of her life, the double shifts, the careful budgeting, the way she moved through the world like she was trying not to take up space. He'd arranged the promotion. He'd made sure the pay increase was significant. He'd kept his distance because he didn't want to scare her, didn't want her to feel like she owed him anything. But now someone was trying to hurt her, and that he couldn't ignore. The next morning, Lena arrived at work to find Sandra waiting for her by the elevator. "Conference room, now." Lena's heart sank. "What happened?" "Just come with me." They walked in silence to a small conference room on the administrative floor. Inside, Mr. Donovan sat at the head of the table. Beside him was a woman Lena didn't recognize. Crisp suit, severe expression, HR badge clipped to her lapel. And across from them sat Roxy, looking smug. "Sit down, Brooks," Donovan said. Lena sat. The HR woman opened a folder. "We've received a complaint regarding inventory discrepancies on the 12th floor. Minibar tampering. Guest complaints." Lena's blood went cold. "I reported those bottles. After you were caught," Roxy interrupted. "I wasn't caught. I found them and logged them as damaged. Convenient. I have the logs, which you could have faked." Lena turned to Donovan. "I didn't do this." "Then who did?" he asked. Lena's mouth opened, closed. She could feel the trap closing around her. If she accused Roxy without proof, she'd look desperate. If she stayed silent, she'd look guilty. "I don't know," she said finally. "But it wasn't me." The HR woman made a note. "We'll be conducting a full investigation. In the meantime, you're suspended pending review." "What?" "Effective immediately. You'll be contacted once we've completed our findings." "This isn't fair." "That's all, Brooks." Lena stood, legs shaking, and walked out of the room. Behind her, she heard Roxy's voice, low and satisfied. "Told you she'd screw up." Lena made it to the stairwell before the tears came. She didn't sob. She didn't break. She just stood there, fists pressed against her eyes, trying to hold herself together. And in that moment, she hated herself for hoping the flowers had meant something. She didn't go home. Not right away. The thought of walking into that tiny apartment and having to explain to Mia why she was back early, why her hands were shaking, why everything they'd barely started to build was crumbling again, it was too much. So Lena walked, block after block through the late morning streets, her uniform still on, her badge still clipped to her collar like some kind of cruel joke. Suspended. The word kept circling her mind like a vulture. Not fired, not yet, but close enough that she could feel the ground disappearing beneath her feet. The dry cleaner's salary alone wouldn't cover rent. She had maybe 3 weeks before the eviction notices started. Maybe 4 if she begged the landlord for an extension she had no way of honoring. Her phone buzzed. A text from Mia. "Why aren't you at work?" Lena stared at the screen. Mia was supposed to be in school. She typed back quickly. "Slow day, got sent home early. Why aren't you in class?" Bathroom break. "Don't dodge. What's wrong?" "Nothing. Focus on your test." "You're lying again." MIA. "Fine, but we're talking tonight." Lena shoved the phone back in her pocket and kept walking. She ended up at a park she'd passed 100 times but never actually entered. A small square of tired grass and benches occupied by pigeons and old men playing chess. She sat down on the least occupied bench and let her head fall into her hands. This was her fault. She should have known better than to hope. Hope was a luxury for people with safety nets, with backup plans, with parents who could wire them money when things went wrong. Lena had none of those things. She had Mia and a studio apartment and 2 jobs that were somehow still not enough. And now she had a suspension that would turn into a termination the moment HR decided they had enough evidence to make it stick. She stayed there for 2 hours, watching the light change, watching people move through their lives like they had somewhere to be, something to protect. Eventually, the cold seeped through her jacket and forced her to move. She caught the bus home, climbed the 3 flights of stairs to the apartment, and let herself in just as Mia was setting the table for dinner. Mia took one look at her face and said, "How bad?" Lena set down her bag. "I got suspended." "For what?" "Something I didn't do." Mia's expression darkened. "Who's saying you did it?" "Doesn't matter." "It does if they're lying." "Mia, did you tell them you didn't do it?" "Of course I did." "And?" "And they're investigating." "That's bullshit." "Language." "It's still bullshit." Mia crossed her arms. "What are we going to do?" Lena pulled off her jacket and hung it on the back of a chair. "I'm going to fix it." "How?" "I don't know yet." "Lena, I'll figure it out." She forced a smile that felt like broken glass. "I always do." Mia didn't look convinced, but she didn't push. They ate dinner in near silence. Spaghetti with jarred sauce because it was cheap and filling. And afterward, Lena sat at the kitchen table with her laptop and started searching for third jobs, night shifts, anything that would cover the gap. But every application asked for references, for availability, for guarantees she couldn't give. And every rejection email that came back felt like another door slamming shut. At 11:34 p.m., her phone buzzed again. Unknown number. Lena almost ignored it, but something made her open the message. "Security footage from the 12th floor service hallway has been reviewed. HR will contact you Monday morning. Do not respond to this message." Her heart stopped. Security footage. If there was footage, then there was proof. Proof that she'd logged the tampered bottles. Proof that she'd done exactly what she was supposed to do. Proof that someone else had sabotaged her. Lena read the message 3 more times, barely breathing. Then she set the phone down and pressed her palms flat against the table, trying to steady herself. Someone was helping her. She didn't know who. She didn't know why. But for the first time in days, she let herself hope. Monday morning arrived cold and gray, the kind of October day that promised rain but never quite delivered. Lena woke up at 5:15 a.m., out of habit, even though she had nowhere to go. She made coffee, kissed Mia's forehead while she slept, and sat by the window watching the city wake up. At 9:02 a.m., her phone rang. Unknown number. She answered. "Hello? Ms. Brooks, this is Jennifer Cow from Human Resources. Can you come in today at 10:30? Lena's grip tightened on the phone. "Yes." "Good. Report to the main administrative office. Ask for me at the front desk." "Can I ask what this is about?" "We'll discuss it when you arrive." The line went dead. Lena showered, dressed in the one nice blouse she owned, navy blue, slightly faded at the collar, and caught the bus to Crownview Towers. She arrived at 10:18, checked in at the front desk, and was escorted to a conference room on the 3rd floor. Jennifer Cow was already there. So was Mr. Donovan. And so was a man Lena had never seen before, tall, middle-aged, wearing an expensive suit and an expression that gave away nothing. "Ms. Brooks," Jennifer said. "Please sit." Lena sat. Jennifer opened a folder and slid a stack of printed images across the table. Security footage stills, time-stamped, crystal clear. The first image showed Roxy entering the service hallway at 6:14 a.m., glancing over her shoulder. The second showed her opening Lena's cart. The third showed her tampering with the minibar bottles. The fourth showed her smiling. Lena's breath caught. "We've completed our investigation," Jennifer said. "The footage confirms that you were not responsible for the inventory discrepancies. Ms. Callahan has been terminated, effective immediately." Relief hit Lena like a wave, so strong her vision blurred for a second. "Your suspension is lifted," Jennifer continued. "You're reinstated as of today, with back pay for the hours you missed. We apologize for the inconvenience." Lena's voice came out hoarse. "Thank you." Mr. Donovan cleared his throat. "We take workplace integrity seriously, Ms. Brooks. If you experience any further issues, you report them immediately. Understood?" "Yes, sir." The man in the expensive suit hadn't said a word. He just watched her with dark, unreadable eyes. Jennifer handed her a new employee badge. You can return to your regular schedule starting tomorrow. Any questions? Lena shook her head. Then you're dismissed. She stood, legs unsteady, and walked toward the door. Just before she reached it, the man in the suit spoke. Miss Brooks. She stopped, turned. His expression hadn't changed, but something in his voice made her skin prickle. Keep doing what you're doing. It wasn't a compliment. It wasn't encouragement. It was a command. Lena nodded once and left. She made it all the way to the lobby before the adrenaline wore off and her knees nearly gave out. She sat down on a bench near the entrance, pressed her hands to her face, and tried to process what had just happened. She'd been cleared. She had her job back. Roxy was gone. But none of it made sense. Security footage didn't just get reviewed on a whim. HR didn't move that fast. And that man in the suit, whoever he was, had looked at her like he knew exactly who she was, like he'd been expecting her. Lena pulled out her phone and stared at the message from Friday night. Security footage from the 12th floor service hallway has been reviewed. Someone had intervened. Someone with enough power to force an investigation, to get Roxy fired, to make HR apologize. And that someone knew Lena's phone number. She sat there for a long time trying to decide if she was grateful or terrified. Eventually she decided she was both. That night she told Mia everything. They sat on the couch with reheated leftovers, and Lena walked her through the suspension, the footage, the reinstatement. Mia listened without interrupting, her sharp eyes tracking every detail. When Lena finished, Mia said, "So someone's watching out for you." "I don't know if I'd put it that way." "What other way is there to put it?" Lena shook her head. "It doesn't make sense. People don't just help for no reason." "Maybe they have a reason you don't know about yet. That's what scares me." Mia leaned back against the couch. "You know what I think?" "What?" "I think you're so used to getting screwed over that you can't recognize kindness when it shows up." Lena stared at her. "Since when did you get so wise?" "Since I had to grow up watching you destroy yourself trying to keep us afloat." Mia's voice softened. "You deserve help, Lena. You deserve someone giving a damn." Lena's throat tightened. She reached over and pulled Mia into a hug, holding on maybe a little too tight. "I love you," she whispered. "I know," Mia said. "Now stop being weird and let me finish my homework." Lena laughed, and it felt like the first real breath she'd taken in days. The next morning, she returned to work. Sandra greeted her at the elevator with a curt nod and a fresh assignment sheet, as if nothing had happened. No one mentioned Roxy. No one asked questions. The other housekeepers gave her wary looks but kept their distance. Lena worked her shift in silence, room after room, methodical and invisible. At noon, she found another gift in her locker. Not flowers this time. A pair of work gloves. Brand new, high quality, the kind that actually protected your hands instead of disintegrating after a week. And tucked inside one glove, a handwritten note on plain white paper. "You shouldn't have to fight alone." No signature. Lena held the note for a long time, reading it over and over until the words blurred. Then she put on the gloves and got back to work. But that night, lying in bed, staring at the ceiling, she made a decision. Whoever was helping her, whoever had intervened, had sent the gloves, had somehow seen her when the rest of the world looked right through her, she was going to find out who they were. Not because she wanted to thank them, because she needed to know what they wanted in return. Nobody gave something for nothing. Lena had learned that lesson the hard way, over and over, until it was carved into her bones. So she started paying attention. She noticed the security cameras in the service hallways, the ones she'd always ignored. She noticed which executives came and went from the administrative floors, which ones had the kind of authority to make HR move that fast. She noticed the man in the expensive suit from the conference room. She saw him once more that week, walking through the lobby with a phone pressed to his ear, moving like someone who owned the building. She asked Sandra about him during a break. "Who's the tall guy? Dark suit, always looks like he's about to fire someone?" Sandra gave her a sharp look. "Why?" "Just curious." "Curiosity gets people fired, Brooks." "Is he management?" Sandra hesitated, then quieter. "He's the reason there is management. You don't ask about him. You don't look at him. You definitely don't talk to him." "Why not?" "Because people like him don't exist on the same level as people like us." Sandra's expression softened just a fraction. Take my advice. Do your job. Stay invisible. Don't ask questions you're not ready to hear the answers to. Lena nodded. But she didn't stop watching, and 2 days later, she saw him again. It was late, nearly 9 o'clock p.m. Lena had picked up an extra shift covering for someone who'd called in sick, and she was finishing up the executive lounge when she heard voices in the hallway. She froze, mop in hand, listening. Don't care what the board says. If the optics are bad, we pull the deal. That voice. The man from the conference room. Understood, Mr. Cross. I'll have the revised contracts on your desk by morning. Footsteps, coming closer. Lena turned back to the lounge, heart pounding, trying to look busy. The door opened. She didn't look up. She just kept mopping, shoulders tight, breathing carefully. Evening, the man said. His voice was quieter than she'd expected, measured, almost gentle. She glanced up. Evening, sir. He stood in the doorway, hands in his pockets, watching her with that same unreadable expression. Up close, she could see the faint lines around his eyes, the gray threading through his dark hair. He looked tired. He looked like someone who hadn't slept in days. You're working late, he said, covering a shift. You do that a lot? She hesitated. When I can, he nodded slowly. You like it here? It's a job. That's not what I asked. Lena met his eyes. It's a good job. Better than most. Something flickered across his face. Surprise, maybe, or recognition. Good, he said quietly. Then, after a pause, keep the gloves? Her breath stopped. It took her 3 seconds to find her voice. That was you. Yes. Why? Graham Cross tilted his head slightly, studying her. Because you were trying to clean up a mess you didn't make, and nobody was helping. I don't need help. Everyone needs help. I don't need charity. It's not charity. His voice hardened just a fraction. It's paying attention. Lena's grip tightened on the mop handle. What do you want from me? Nothing. People don't help for nothing. Most people don't. He stepped into the lounge, hands still in his pockets, movement slow and deliberate like he was approaching something easily startled. But I'm not most people. Then what are you? He stopped a few feet away. Someone who knows what it's like to be invisible. Lena stared at him. He didn't look away. Finally, she said, You're not invisible. You own this place. I own a lot of places. Doesn't make me visible. Just makes me rich. He paused. There's a difference. Must be nice. It's not. The words came out flat, emotionless, but Lena heard the truth underneath them. Silence stretched between them, thick and strange. Then Graham said, I saw what happened to you the morning with the car. I was there. Lena's stomach dropped. You were across the street in a black sedan. His expression didn't change. I watched her humiliate you, and I watched you keep walking. Heat flooded Lena's face. Shame, anger, something she couldn't name. So what? You felt sorry for me? No. His voice went quiet. I respected you. She wasn't ready for that. She wasn't ready for the way it landed in her chest like a stone dropping into still water. Graham continued, measured and careful. You could have screamed, could have broken down, could have made a scene. You didn't. You just kept going. That takes strength most people don't have. Or desperation. Sometimes they're the same thing. Lena looked away, blinking hard. I should finish up. Of course. He stepped back toward the door. One more thing. She waited. The woman in the car, Vera Langston. She's going to come at you again. Lena's head snapped up. What? She doesn't know I saw what she did, but she will soon. And when she does, she'll try to control the narrative. She'll try to make herself the victim. Graham's expression turned cold. Don't let her. How am I supposed to stop her? You don't. I will. Why would you? Because I don't let cruelty go unanswered. His voice was steel now, especially not when it's directed at someone who's already carrying more than they should. Lena opened her mouth, closed it. Every response she could think of felt inadequate. Graham reached into his jacket and pulled out a business card. He set it on the nearest table. If she contacts you, if anyone contacts you about that morning, you call me first. I don't understand. You don't have to. He moved toward the door, then paused. And Ms. Brooks? Yes? Those gloves weren't charity. They were an investment, and someone worth investing in. He left before she could respond. Lena stood alone in the empty lounge, mop still in hand, staring at the business card on the table. Plain white, black lettering, Graham Cross private line and a phone number. She picked it up with shaking hands and slipped it into her pocket. Then she finished mopping, clocked out, and went home. But she didn't sleep, because the next morning, Vera Langston's face was all over social media, and Lena's world was about to explode. Mia shook Lena awake at 6:47 a.m., phone screen glowing in the dim bedroom light. You need to see this. Lena blinked, groggy and disoriented. What? Just look. Mia thrust the phone into her hands. The post had been made 3 hours ago. A video. Vera Langston's perfectly made-up face filled the frame, eyes red-rimmed like she'd been crying, lower lip trembling just enough to look vulnerable without ruining her lipstick. I never thought I'd have to make this kind of video, Vera began, voice soft and wounded. But I can't stay silent anymore. A few weeks ago, I was driving through the city early in the morning, exhausted from a late event, and I accidentally splashed someone with street water. It was an accident. I didn't even realize it happened until later. Lena's stomach turned to ice. But now I'm being harassed, Vera continued. Stalked, threatened. Someone has been sending me anonymous messages with photos of my car, my location, telling me I'm being watched. I'm terrified. I don't know who's doing this or why, but I think it's connected to that morning. Maybe the person I accidentally splashed is trying to extort me. Maybe they think because I come from money, they can... Lena stopped the video. Her hands were shaking so badly she nearly dropped the phone. Keep watching, Mia said quietly. Lena pressed play. I'm not naming names, Vera said, dabbing at her eyes with a tissue. But I want people to know that this is what happens when you're visible, when you're successful. People see you as a target. They want to tear you down, take what you have, make you the villain in their story. She leaned closer to the camera, voice dropping to something almost conspiratorial. I'm sharing this because I want other women to be careful, to protect themselves, because the world is full of people who will twist your mistakes into weapons. The video ended. Below it, the comments were already in the thousands. Stay strong, Queen. This is so scary, OMG. Who's she talking about? Someone find out. Rich people really can't do anything without getting attacked. Lena handed the phone back to Mia and sat up, pressing her palms against her eyes. She's lying, Mia said, voice hard. She's completely lying. I know. She made herself the victim. I know. We have to... We don't do anything. Lena's voice came out sharper than she intended. We stay quiet. We stay invisible. That's how we survive this. That's bullshit, and you know it. Mia, she's setting you up. If someone figures out who you are, they'll come after you. They'll believe her version because she's rich and pretty and has 1 million followers. Nobody's going to figure out who I am. You don't know that. I'm nobody. I'm a housekeeper. I don't have social media. I don't exist in her world. Lena stood, legs unsteady, and reached for her uniform. This will blow over. These things always do. And if it doesn't? Lena pulled on her shirt and didn't answer. But in her pocket, Graham Cross's business card felt like a live wire. She made it through her morning shift on autopilot, cleaning rooms she barely saw, her mind spinning in circles. Every time her phone buzzed, her heart jumped. But it was never anything important, just spam texts and a reminder about Mia's parent-teacher conference next week. Nobody at work mentioned the video. Nobody even looked at her differently. For a few hours, Lena let herself believe that maybe Mia was wrong. Maybe this would just disappear into the noise of the internet, buried under the next scandal, the next outrage. Then, during her lunch break, Sandra found her in the service hallway. Conference room, now. Lena's stomach dropped. Again? Don't ask questions, just move. This time, the conference room held only 2 people, Jennifer Cow from HR and Graham Cross. He stood by the window, arms crossed, expression carved from stone. When Lena entered, he didn't turn around. Jennifer gestured to a chair. "Sit down, Ms. Brooks." Lena sat. Her pulse hammered in her throat. Jennifer slid a tablet across the table. Vera's video was paused on the screen. "Have you seen this?" "Yes." "Do you know what she's referring to?" Lena's mouth went dry. Answer honestly," Graham said, still facing the window. "No one in this room is going to punish you for telling the truth." Lena looked at Jennifer, then at Graham's back, then at the tablet. "A few weeks ago," she said slowly, "I was walking to work early in the morning. A white SUV drove through a puddle and splashed me. The driver stopped, rolled down her window, and laughed. She told me to learn where I belong. Then she drove away." Jennifer made a note. "Did you file a police report?" "No." "Why not?" "Because I'm a housekeeper, and she's—" Lena gestured at the screen. "Her. Nobody would have believed me." "Did you send her threatening messages?" "No." "Did you contact her at all after the incident?" "I didn't even know who she was until this morning." Jennifer nodded and closed her tablet. "Thank you for your honesty." Graham finally turned around. His expression was unreadable, but something cold and sharp glinted in his eyes. "Miss Brooks," he said quietly, "I'm going to ask you a question, and I need you to think very carefully before you answer." Lena waited. "Do you want this to go away quietly, or do you want the truth to come out?" Her breath caught. "What's the difference?" "Quietly means I make some calls, apply some pressure, and Vera deletes the video and moves on with her life. You stay anonymous, safe, invisible." He paused. "The truth means I release the security footage from that morning, the footage that shows exactly what happened. Her laughing, her cruelty, all of it." Lena's heart was racing now. "And what happens to me if you do that?" "You stop being invisible." The words landed like a punch. "People will know your name," Graham continued, voice steady and deliberate. "They'll know your story. Some of them will support you. Some of them will tear you apart. Your life will change, and you won't be able to control how." "Why would you do that?" Lena whispered. "Why would you risk that for me?" "Because I'm tired of watching cruelty win." His jaw tightened. "And because you deserve better than spending your life hiding from people who've done nothing to earn their power." Lena looked at Jennifer. "Does he always talk like this?" Jennifer almost smiled. "Unfortunately," Graham pulled out his phone, "I have the footage ready to go. One call, and it's public. But I won't make that call without your permission." Lena stood, legs shaking. She walked to the window and stared out at the city below, cars streaming past, people moving through their lives, oblivious to the choice she was being forced to make. Stay invisible. Stay safe. Or step into the light and risk everything. She thought about Mia, about the bills piling up, about the fragile life they'd built from nothing. She thought about Vera's smug face, about that voice telling her to learn where she belonged. She thought about the flowers, the gloves, the quiet interventions that had kept her from drowning. And she thought about the girl she used to be, before her parents died, before survival became the only thing that mattered. The girl who believed the world could be fair if you just worked hard enough. That girl had been wrong, but maybe she didn't have to stay wrong forever. Lena turned around. "Release it." Graham's expression didn't change, but something in his posture shifted. "You're sure?" "No." Her voice was steady now. "But I'm tired of being afraid." He nodded once. Then he lifted his phone and made the call. "It's done. Send it." Lena sat back down, hands folded in her lap, and waited for her life to explode. It took 47 minutes. That's how long it took for Graham's people to release the footage, for it to hit social media, for the internet to do what the internet does best: devour a story and spit out the bones. The video was short, just 90 seconds. Security camera footage from a traffic light across the street, grainy but clear enough. Time-stamped. Undeniable. It showed a young woman walking alone in the pre-dawn darkness. It showed a white SUV accelerating toward a puddle. It showed the explosion of dirty water, the girl staggering backward, soaked through. And it showed the SUV stopping, the window rolling down, Vera Langston's face, clearly visible, smiling as she said something the camera couldn't pick up. Then driving away, laughing. The caption was simple. Context matters. This is what really happened. Within an hour, Vera's video had been ratioed into oblivion. The comment section had turned into a war zone. She lied. This is psychopath behavior. Rich people really think they can just rewrite reality. Who is the girl? Someone find her and make sure she's okay. By the time Lena's shift ended, 3 news outlets had picked up the story. By the time she got home, it was trending on every platform. And by the time she collapsed onto the couch next to Mia, her phone had 17 missed calls from numbers she didn't recognize. "They're going to find you," Mia said, scrolling through her own phone. "People are already trying to figure out who you are. Let them try." "Lena? I'm not hiding anymore." She took the phone from Mia's hands and set it aside. "Whatever happens, happens." Mia studied her face for a long moment. Then she said quietly, "You're scared. Terrified. But you did it anyway." "Yeah." Mia leaned against her shoulder. "I'm proud of you." Lena's throat tightened. She wrapped an arm around her sister and held on. They sat there in silence, watching the city lights flicker through the window, while somewhere across town, Vera Langston's carefully constructed world began to crumble. The next morning, Lena woke to find her name trending. Someone had identified her. She didn't know how. Maybe a former coworker, maybe a guest who'd seen her at the hotel, maybe just the relentless machinery of internet sleuthing. But there it was, her full name, her age, her job title, her neighborhood, and beneath it, thousands of messages. Some were supportive. "This girl is a hero." Imagine getting up every day and working 2 jobs just to survive and then having some rich brat treat you like garbage. "I hope she sues." Others were vicious. "She's just looking for a payout." Probably set this whole thing up for attention. "Gold digger spotted." Lena read them until her eyes burned and her hands shook. Then she deleted every social media app from her phone and threw it across the room. Mia picked it up and brought it back. "You can't ignore this. Watch me." "Lena, I don't care what strangers think about me. I never did. I just wanted the truth out there. Now it is. That's enough." "Is it?" Before Lena could answer, someone knocked on the door. They both froze. "Are we expecting anyone?" Mia whispered. "No." Another knock. Louder this time. Lena stood and walked to the door, pulse hammering. She checked the peephole. A woman stood in the hallway. Mid-30s, professional clothes, camera bag over one shoulder. Reporter. Lena stepped back from the door. "Miss Brooks?" the woman called. "My name is Andrea Chen. I'm with Metro News. I'd love to talk to you about what happened. Just 5 minutes of your time." "Go away," Lena said. "I understand you're overwhelmed, but this is your chance to tell your story in your own words." I said go away. "Ms. Brooks, if you don't leave, I'm calling the police." There was a pause, then footsteps retreating down the hallway. Lena locked the deadbolt and slid down to the floor, back against the door. "This is going to get worse," Mia said quietly. "I know." "What are we going to do?" Lena pulled out Graham's business card. She'd been carrying it in her pocket for days, the edges already soft from being touched too many times. She called the number. He answered on the second ring. "Ms. Brooks." "They found me." "I know. I've been monitoring the situation. There's a reporter outside my apartment." "There are 3. I had my security team document them. They'll be gone within the hour." Lena closed her eyes. "This is insane." "This is the cost of visibility." His voice was calm, steady, grounding. "But you don't have to navigate it alone." "What does that mean?" "It means I'm offering you options. You can stay in your apartment and weather this until the story dies down, which it will. Or you can let me move you somewhere safer until the attention fades. Your choice. I'm not running. I'm not asking you to run. I'm asking you to let me help." "Why?" The question came out raw. "Why do you keep helping me?" Graham was quiet for a moment. When he spoke again, his voice was quieter, almost careful. "Because my mother cleaned office buildings for 15 years. She worked nights so I could go to school during the day. She died when I was 17, and I didn't get to protect her from the people who treated her like she was invisible." He paused. "I can't fix that, but I can make sure it doesn't happen to you." Lena's breath caught. "You remind me of her," Graham continued, "not in the ways that matter to other people, but in the ways that matter to me. You keep going when anyone else would have quit. You take care of the people who depend on you. You don't ask for help, even when you're drowning." His voice hardened just slightly. "And you deserve better than what this world has given you." Lena pressed a hand to her mouth, trying to hold back the sob building in her chest. "So let me help," Graham said. "Not because you owe me anything, but because I can, and you shouldn't have to do this alone." She took a shaky breath. "Okay. Okay? Help me. Please. I'll have a car at your building in 20 minutes. Pack what you and your sister need for a few days. Don't answer the door for anyone except my driver. His name is Marcus. He'll call when he arrives." "Where are we going?" "Somewhere safe, somewhere quiet, somewhere no one will bother you while we figure out the next move." "And then what?" "Then we make sure Vera Langston never hurts anyone again." The line went dead. Lena sat there for a moment, phone pressed to her ear, trying to process what she'd just agreed to. Then Mia appeared in the doorway. "We're leaving?" "Just for a few days." "Where?" "I don't know, but it's better than here." They packed quickly, clothes, toiletries, Mia's school books, Lena's work uniforms just in case. 23 minutes later, Lena's phone rang. "Ms. Brooks, this is Marcus. I'm downstairs, black sedan, license plate ending in 4729. "We'll be right down." They took the back stairs to avoid the reporters in the front lobby. Marcus was waiting by the car, a broad-shouldered man in his 40s with kind eyes and a professional demeanor. He opened the rear door without a word. Lena and Mia slid inside. The car pulled away from the curb smoothly, and Lena watched her apartment building disappear in the side mirror. "Where are we going?" she asked Marcus. He met her eyes in the rear-view mirror. "Somewhere Mr. Cross uses when he needs privacy. You'll be comfortable there, safe." "Is he going to be there?" "Not tonight. He thought you'd prefer space." Lena nodded and looked out the window as the city blurred past. Beside her, Mia whispered, "Is this really happening?" "Yeah." "Are we in trouble?" "I don't think so." "Do you trust him, this Graham guy?" Lena thought about the flowers, the gloves, the way he'd looked at her in the executive lounge, like she was something worth protecting. "I think so," she said. "Or maybe I just don't have a choice. There's always a choice. Not always a good one." They drove for 40 minutes, leaving the city behind, heading into the quiet suburbs where the houses got bigger and the streets got emptier. Finally, Marcus turned into a gated driveway and pulled up to a modest house. 2 stories, warm lights glowing in the windows, surrounded by trees that blocked it from view. "This is it," Marcus said. "The house is stocked with food. Security system is active. If you need anything, call this number." He handed Lena a card. "Mr. Cross will check in tomorrow." "Thank you," Lena said quietly. "You're welcome." He smiled. "And Miss Brooks, you did the right thing. Don't let anyone tell you different." He drove away, and Lena and Mia stood on the front porch, staring at the door. "This is surreal," Mia said. "Yeah. What do we do now?" Lena unlocked the door and stepped inside. The house was warm, clean, and quiet. Furniture that looked comfortable but not ostentatious. A kitchen with a full fridge, 2 bedrooms upstairs with fresh sheets on the beds. It felt like a sanctuary. Lena set down her bag and walked to the window, looking out at the dark trees swaying in the wind. Somewhere out there, Vera Langston was scrambling. The internet was still tearing her apart. The truth was out. And for the first time in weeks, Lena felt like she could breathe. Mia came up beside her. What happens next? Lena didn't know. But she knew she wasn't facing it alone anymore. And maybe that was enough. They spent the first night in silence, moving through the unfamiliar house like ghosts, too overwhelmed to speak. Mia claimed the smaller bedroom upstairs, and Lena took the one at the end of the hall. She lay awake until past midnight, staring at the ceiling, listening to the wind in the trees outside, trying to convince herself this was real and not some fever dream brought on by exhaustion and desperation. When she finally slept, she dreamed of muddy water and laughter that wouldn't stop. She woke to sunlight streaming through curtains she didn't recognize and the smell of coffee she hadn't made. Panic spiked through her chest until she remembered where she was. Safe house. Graham Cross. The video that had set her life on fire. Lena pulled on yesterday's clothes and went downstairs. Mia sat at the kitchen table with a mug of coffee and her laptop, already dressed for the day in jeans and an oversized sweater. "You made coffee," Lena said. "Found the fancy machine. Took me 20 minutes to figure out how it works." Mia gestured at the counter. "There's eggs in the fridge, real eggs, not the cheap ones we usually get." Lena poured herself a cup and sat down across from her sister. "You sleep okay?" "Better than I have in months. That mattress is insane." Mia closed her laptop and looked at Lena with those two sharp eyes. "You look like hell, though." "Thanks. I mean it. When's the last time you actually slept through the night?" Lena couldn't remember. "What are you working on?" "Homework, trying to stay normal." Mia paused. "Also check the news. Vera's getting destroyed." "Good." Her dad released a statement, says she's taking time away from social media to focus on her mental health. Translation, she's hiding. "Pretty much." Mia hesitated. "There's something else." Lena's stomach tightened. "What?" "Some blogger posted a deep dive on you. Where you work, where you live, your whole background. They're calling you a gold digger, saying you planned this to get money from Graham Cross." The coffee turned bitter in Lena's mouth. "Let me see." "No." "Mia, I said no. You don't need that poison in your head." Mia reached across the table and grabbed Lena's hand. "Listen to me. The people who matter know the truth. Everyone else is just noise. The noise can destroy us, only if we let it." Before Lena could respond, her phone rang. Graham's number. She answered. "Hello? How are you settling in?" His voice was calm, professional, but she could hear something underneath it. Genuine concern, maybe, or just exhaustion that matched her own. "We're okay. The house is... It's too much." "It's temporary, just until things calm down." "When will that be?" "Soon. I'm working on it." He paused. "I'm coming by this afternoon. There are some things we need to discuss." "What things?" "Your options. Moving forward." Lena's pulse quickened. "Okay. I'll be there around 2. Marcus will bring lunch." "You don't have to." "I know I don't have to. I'm doing it anyway." His tone softened just slightly. "Try to rest, Ms. Brooks. You've earned it." He hung up before she could argue. Lena set down the phone and looked at Mia. "He's coming here." "The billionaire?" "Yeah." "To talk about your options?" "Apparently." Mia grinned. "This is like a movie. This is a nightmare." "Same thing, depending on the genre." Marcus arrived at 1:47 p.m. with enough food to feed 6 people, sandwiches, salads, fresh fruit, pastries that looked like they'd been made that morning. He set everything on the kitchen counter with quiet efficiency, nodded to Lena, and left without a word. Graham arrived at exactly 2 o'clock, dressed in dark jeans and a plain sweater that probably cost more than Lena's monthly rent. He looked different outside of a suit, younger, more approachable, though his eyes still carried that careful wariness of someone who'd learned not to trust easily. "Miss Brooks." "Mia." He nodded to each of them. "Thank you for seeing me." "It's your house," Lena said. "It's a house I own. There's a difference." He gestured to the living room. "Can we sit?" They settled onto the couch, Lena and Mia on one side, Graham in the armchair across from them. He leaned forward, hands clasped between his knees, and got straight to the point. "Vera's lawyer contacted me this morning," he said. "They want to settle." Lena's breath caught. "Settle what?" "They're offering you money, a significant amount, in exchange for your silence." "How much?" Mia asked. Graham named a figure that made Lena's vision blur. "That's..." She couldn't finish the sentence. "Enough to change your life," Graham said quietly. "Enough to pay off any debts, cover Mia's education, give you stability you've never had." "What's the catch?" "You sign a non-disclosure agreement. You never speak publicly about what happened. You let the story die. Vera gets to move on, and you get financial security." Lena stared at him. "You think I should take it?" I think you should consider it. But you don't think I should take it? Graham's expression shifted, something hard and cold moving behind his eyes. What I think doesn't matter. This is your choice. Then why are you here? To make sure you understand the full picture before you decide. He leaned back slightly. If you take the money, you survive. You get safety. But Vera wins. She gets to buy her way out of consequences, and the next person she hurts won't have proof, won't have protection. They'll just have her word against theirs. And if I don't take it, then I help you fight. We make sure what she did stays public. We push for real accountability, but that fight will be ugly. It will be exhausting. And there's no guarantee you'll come out of it better than you went in. Mia squeezed Lena's hand. Lena looked down at their joined fingers, her sister's hand small and warm in hers, trusting her to make the right choice. How long do I have to decide? She asked. 24 hours. And what do you get out of this? Either way? Graham met her eyes. Nothing. That's not true. It is true. I'm not asking you to choose based on what I want. I'm asking you to choose based on what you can live with. He paused. But if you want my honest opinion, I do. Then here it is. You've spent your entire life making yourself small so other people could feel big. You've worked twice as hard for half as much. You've swallowed insults and kept walking, and you've done it all because you thought that was the only way to survive. His voice dropped lower. But survival isn't the same as living, and you deserve to live, not just survive. Lena's throat tightened. So if you take the money, Graham continued, I'll support that choice. I'll make sure you get every penny you're owed, and I'll make sure Vera's lawyers don't screw you over in the fine print. But if you want to fight, if you want to make sure she can't do this to anyone else, then I'll fight with you, every step of the way. Silence filled the room. Finally, Mia said, Can we talk about it? Just us? Of course. Graham stood. I'll be outside if you need me. He stepped out onto the back porch, leaving them alone. Lena turned to Mia. What do you think? I think it's a lot of money. It is. Enough to fix everything. Yeah. Mia's eyes were too bright. But you're not going to take it, are you? Lena's chest ached. I don't know. Yes, you do. You're just scared to say it out loud. We could have a real life, Mia. You could go to any college you want. I could stop working myself to death. We could actually breathe. We'd also have to live with ourselves. Mia's voice was quiet but firm. And I don't think you could. Not if it meant letting her win. This isn't about winning. Yes, it is. Maybe not in the way she thinks, but it is. Mia squeezed her hand again. You taught me to stand up for what's right, even when it's hard, even when it costs you. You think I don't see that? You think I don't know? That's why we're still here, still fighting. Tears burned in Lena's eyes. I'm so tired. I know. I just want us to be okay. We will be. Either way, we will be. But taking that money won't make you okay up here. Mia tapped her own chest. And that's the part that matters. Lena pulled her sister into a hug and held on tight. When she finally let go, she walked to the back porch where Graham stood looking out at the trees. I'm not taking the money, she said. He turned to face her. You're sure? No, but I'm doing it anyway. Something fierce and proud flashed across his face. Then let's make sure she regrets ever laughing at you. The next 48 hours moved fast. Graham's lawyers drafted a response declining the settlement and outlining Lena's intention to pursue legal action for emotional distress and public humiliation. Vera's team responded with threats. They'd destroy Lena's reputation, paint her as a con artist, dig up every mistake she'd ever made. Graham's response was simple. Try it. Then he made 3 calls. The first was to a journalist he trusted, someone who'd built a career on holding powerful people accountable. Within 6 hours, a long-form article dropped detailing not just the incident with Lena, but a pattern of behavior from Vera. Former assistants coming forward about abuse, vendors she'd stiffed, employees she'd humiliated. The article painted a picture of someone who'd spent years treating people like disposables because she'd never faced consequences. The second call was to the board of directors at her father's company. Graham owned enough shares in related ventures that his concerns carried weight. He suggested, politely but firmly, that they might want to distance themselves from someone becoming a liability. The third call was to Vera herself. Lena didn't hear that conversation. Graham took it in another room, door closed, voice too low to make out. But when he emerged 20 minutes later, his expression was cold and satisfied. "What did you say to her?" Lena asked. "I gave her a choice. Apologize publicly and sincerely, or watch her father's company lose investors until there's nothing left to inherit." "What did she choose?" "Self-preservation. She'll issue an apology tomorrow. It won't be perfect, but it'll be public." "And then what?" "Then her father deals with her. He's already frozen her accounts. She'll have to learn to exist without a safety net for the first time in her life." Graham's voice was utterly devoid of sympathy. "Maybe it'll teach her something. Maybe it won't. But she'll never hurt you again." Lena sat down slowly. "Why are you doing all this?" "I told you." "No, really. Why?" Graham was quiet for a long moment. Then he sat down across from her and said, "When I was 17, my mother cleaned a law office downtown. One of the partners made a habit of leaving messes for her, coffee spills, trash on the floor, deliberately making her job harder because he thought it was funny. She never complained, never reported it, just cleaned up after him and moved on." His jaw tightened. "One night she slipped on something he'd spilled and broke her wrist. Couldn't work for 6 weeks, couldn't pay rent. We lost our apartment." Lena's heart clenched. "The partner never faced consequences," Graham continued, "never even apologized. And my mother never fought back because she thought that's just how the world worked. The powerful hurt people, and the rest of us cleaned up the mess." He met Lena's eyes. "I built everything I have so I'd never be powerless like that again. But power's not worth anything if you don't use it to protect people who can't protect themselves." "Your mother would be proud of you," Lena said quietly. "I hope so." His voice roughened slightly. "She didn't live long enough to see it." They sat in silence for a moment. Then Lena said, "Thank you for all of this." "You're welcome. But you did the hard part. You chose to fight when walking away would have been easier. That took more courage than anything I've done." "I don't feel courageous. Courage never does." The apology came the next morning, posted on all of Vera's social media accounts, written by lawyers but signed with her name. "I want to address the incident that has been circulating online. What I did was wrong. I acted with cruelty and carelessness towards someone who didn't deserve it. Lena Brooks deserved respect and dignity, and I failed to give her either. I'm deeply sorry for the pain I caused, and I'm committed to doing better. I'm taking time away to reflect on my behavior and make meaningful changes. It wasn't perfect. It was clearly scripted. But it was public, permanent, and humiliating in its own way. The internet had a field day. But more importantly, the harassment stopped. The reporters left. The bloggers moved on to newer scandals. And slowly, carefully, Lena's life began to settle into something that almost felt normal. A week later, Graham called her with a different kind of offer. "There's a management training program at Crownview," he said. 6 months of intensive courses in hospitality, operations, leadership, full scholarship, flexible schedule, so you can still work part-time and support Mia." Lena's hands shook as she held the phone. "Why would you?" "Because you're smart, resourceful, and you know this industry from the ground up. That's worth investing in." "I'm a housekeeper." "You're a housekeeper who speaks 3 languages, manages complex schedules, and handles pressure better than most executives I've met. You just never had anyone give you a chance." "I don't know what to say." "Say yes." Lena closed her eyes. "What if I fail?" "Then you fail. And you try again. That's how learning works." His voice softened. "You've spent your whole life being told you belong at the bottom. I'm telling you that's a lie. The only question is whether you believe me." Lena thought about her mother, who'd never finished high school but had taught Lena to read before kindergarten. She thought about her father, who'd worked construction until his body gave out. She thought about Mia, brilliant and fierce, who deserved to see her sister reach for something beyond survival. "Okay," she whispered. "I'll do it." "Good. I'll have Marcus bring you the enrollment paperwork tomorrow." "Graham?" "Yes?" "Thank you for seeing me." Thank you for being worth seeing. The program started 3 weeks later. Lena worked mornings at the hotel, attended classes in the afternoons, studied at night after Mia went to bed. It was brutal, exhausting. Some days she wanted to quit, but she didn't. She learned about supply chain management, customer service protocols, financial planning, team leadership. She learned how to read balance sheets and navigate workplace conflicts and turn a struggling department around. She learned that she was good at this, better than good. And 6 months later, when she completed the program with top marks, Graham offered her a position as assistant operations manager. Not because of charity, because she'd earned it. 1 year after the morning that changed everything, Lena stood in the ballroom of Crown View Towers during the hotel's anniversary gala. She wore a dress Mia had helped her pick out. Simple, elegant, navy blue. Her hair was pulled back in a sleek bun. Her hands no longer bore the chemical burns from years of cleaning supplies. She wasn't invisible anymore. Graham found her near the windows, champagne glass in hand, watching the city lights. "You clean up nice," he said. "You sound surprised." "I'm not, just appreciative." He handed her a glass. "How does it feel, being on this side of the room?" "Surreal, terrifying." She took a sip. "Good. You've earned it." "So people keep telling me." She turned to face him. "You know what's strange? I thought when I got here, wherever here is, I'd feel different, like I'd finally be someone who mattered. But I don't feel that different. I'm just me, in nicer clothes." "That's because you always mattered. The clothes didn't change that. They just made other people notice." Lena smiled. "You always know what to say." "Occupational hazard of being emotionally unavailable most of the time." She laughed, surprised. "Was that a joke?" "Might have been. I'm out of practice." They stood there in comfortable silence, watching the party unfold below. Finally, Graham said, "There's something I've been meaning to ask you." "What?" "That morning, when you kept walking after what happened, what were you thinking?" Lena considered the question. "I was thinking that if I stopped, if I let myself break down, I wouldn't be able to get back up, so I just kept moving. One step, then another, until I made it through." "That's all any of us can do." "Yeah." She looked at him. "What were you thinking when you saw it happen?" His expression shifted, something vulnerable breaking through. "I was thinking that cruelty, that casual, that pointless, says everything about the person doing it, and nothing about the person receiving it. And I was thinking that if nobody stopped her, she'd do it again, to someone else. Someone who might not be strong enough to keep walking." "So you decided to stop her?" "I decided to make sure she understood that actions have consequences, even for people who think they're untouchable." "Did it work?" "Last I heard, she's working at one of her father's dealerships, sales floor, no special treatment, learning what it's like to earn a paycheck." His smile was sharp. "I'd call that progress." "You're terrifying when you want to be." "Only to people who deserve it." "Good thing I'm on your good side." "Good thing." The music shifted, something slow and gentle. Couples moved onto the dance floor. Graham held out his hand. "Dance with me?" Lena hesitated. "I don't really know how." "Neither do I. We'll figure it out." She took his hand. They moved onto the floor, his hand settling at her waist, hers on his shoulder. They swayed awkwardly at first, neither of them particularly graceful, both of them too aware of the people watching. Then Lena stopped caring. She looked up at Graham and said, "You saved my life." "No, you saved your own life. I just helped you see that you could." "That's the same thing." "It's not." His voice was quiet, serious. Saving someone means they owe you. Helping someone means they get to decide what comes next. You don't owe me anything, Lena. You never did. Her throat tightened. "What if I want to give you something anyway?" "Like what?" "I don't know yet, but I'll figure it out." He smiled, a real smile, warm and unguarded. "I believe you." They danced until the song ended, then stepped apart. And Lena realized something. She wasn't afraid anymore. Not of being seen, not of being judged, not of reaching for things she'd once thought were impossible. She was just here, present, alive. And that was enough. 2 weeks later, on a gray Saturday morning, Lena took the bus back to the street where it had all begun. She stood on the corner where she'd been walking that morning, where the puddle had been, where Vera had laughed. The street had been repaved since then. Clean asphalt, fresh paint on the crosswalk. No evidence of what had happened. Lena slipped off her shoes, nicer shoes now, leather instead of worn sneakers, and stood barefoot on the pavement. It was cold, rough under her feet, real. She stood there for a long moment, feeling the ground beneath her, feeling the morning air on her face. Then she heard footsteps behind her. Graham appeared beside her, hands in his pockets, looking down at her bare feet with raised eyebrows. "What are you doing?" he asked. "Reclaiming something. By standing barefoot on a city street?" "Yeah." He considered this. Then he kicked off his own shoes and stood beside her. Lena looked at him, surprised. "You don't have to—" "I know." They stood there together, two people who'd learned that power and vulnerability weren't opposites but partners, that being seen meant being brave enough to show up exactly as you were. The sun broke through the clouds, warming the street beneath their feet. And Lena realized she wasn't standing on the place where she'd been humiliated. She was standing on the place where she'd refused to stay down, where she'd kept walking, where she'd survived. "Ready to go?" Graham asked. Lena slipped her shoes back on. "Yeah, I'm ready." They walked away from that corner together, leaving the past behind, stepping into whatever came next. And for the first time in her life, Lena wasn't afraid of what that might be, because she'd learned the most important lesson. The mud washes off. But the strength it takes to keep walking, that stays forever.